Hi, morning. How are you doing? How is everything? I'm doing well. How about yourself? Okay, okay. Good evening. I'm doing well. Always good to get the chance to call into WVOE, the voice of Ebony. Always glad I got a chance to do this show. Thank you all for allowing me to have this opportunity to hopefully bless someone with a little information out there. And as always, we're always glad to see another day. So appreciate that. I really appreciate that. All right. So good afternoon, listeners. Yeah, of course, I'm still in the habit of saying good morning, but yeah. So good afternoon, listeners. You're locked into WVOE, the voice of Ebony, where your health is our heartbeat. I'm your host, Dr. Christopher Brown, president and founder of Pressure MD Academy, welcoming you to another enriching session of Health Facts, the show where wisdom meets wellness and knowledge is always in season. All right, all right. So we got another show here, and as you can tell, I'm in the hospital. And I got my scrubs on, so of course the short show may be a little shorter than normal, and and of course if someone pages me, I'll have to jump off of this, but hopefully we can make it through the show without any difficulty. And so today, what we're going to talk about, we're actually going to follow up. I was going to talk about chronic, some kidney disease, but decided to follow up on our conversation last week. And I think with this new format that we're doing, of course, we're being live streamed right now to YouTube, and the Zoom is being recorded. So we're going to try and see if we can get these messages out to a broader audience. But last week we talked about diseases of despair and the fact that these diseases we kind of defined them, but we talked about the fact that these diseases are more prevalent in the male community, and that they think that this is probably contributing to the longevity gap between men and women. And we talked a little bit about what it is. I mean, a lot of these things are, these are things like depression, honestly, chronic diseases, because those chronic diseases are being driven by poor choices that are a result of a lot of times extraneous things that are affecting the guys. Suicide, mental health issues, all that stuff that's going down there. And it talked about some of the reasons that these diseases of despair are increasing. But I think that a lot of times this stuff is the result of like say if you're underemployed, that contributes. If you're stressed at home, that contributes. If you feel like you're not keeping up with your peers, that can contribute as well. And it's interesting because on social media, I kind of follow some of these guy groups where where men kind of get together, kind of hash out some of the issues. And there was one of the young men, of course, he was anonymous, but posted. He was a 27-year-old guy. He was married and was expecting his first child. And he was kind of letting us know that, he was only getting entry level jobs. He was, wasn't being promoted. He was only had entry level jobs, and he was very concerned about his ability to support his family if he can only get entry level jobs. He's just kind of bouncing. He's kind of bouncing around there. It doesn't really have a criteria. And of course, a lot of guys kind of responded. But you know, you know, one of the things as a doctor, of course, you're a person, you're human, but you're also a doctor. I think that sometimes as doctors, we can kind of help in more ways than just that physical, whatever my specialty is. Sometimes helping people in their personal life helps them with health issues, right? So from the doctor side of this, of course, I'm thinking 27-year-old married. I'm like, okay, so probably because this is the age when a lot of people start getting these chronic diseases, hypertension, pre-diabetes. Of course, I don't know anything about the guy, so but just kind of extrapolating. But reading his situation, it sounds like he's underemployed, and he is concerned about finances, which I think is reasonable because with with the inflation, just to kind of in general, entry level jobs, people are like, oh, we need to raise minimum wage, and maybe you can make the argument, but at the end of the day, we're really designed to not stay in entry level jobs. So these jobs are not really made to support people. That I mean, and honestly, that they're really not made that way. You're supposed to come in there, kind of get things going, and then you're supposed to climb up so that you get more income. So when you don't do that, then like I said, you get almost kind of stuck at a certain financial level, and for a lot of places, you can't, you're going to struggle quite a bit to try to maintain yourself and a family. Even if your spouse is working, your wife is working, that's still going to be a lot of struggle there. And so switching hats from just like a regular doctor, hey, let me check your blood pressure, let me get some labs, to more of, what sort of advice to give to a young man that is facing these sort of issues. Now, of course, I don't know. Like I said, was he in jail? Did he, did he have a one-parent household, two-parent household? Maybe he was adopted, or maybe didn't have any parents at all. But whatever the situation is, he finds himself at this point. And so, you know, the past at this point in time doesn't really matter as much. I mean, don't get me wrong, you can never completely ignore the past, but the goal is this guy is reaching out for help now. What can we do what advice could be given to the guy to help him, to improve his life? Because from a doctor standpoint, if he improves his life, he gets better education or better job, stuff of nature, he might can prevent those diseases that I'm trying to prevent. I don't want him to get hypertension. I don't want him to get stressed. I don't want him to get depression. So, like I said, so now we can provide a little bit of the information. And so I think that this show right here, we're going to talk about things that a guy like this could do to improve his lot in life. Because I think, if I'm a 27-year-old guy in this position, I'm probably thinking that, oh my God, life is over, the whole nine yard. But I'm a 51-year-old doctor, and I know that this guy is at the beginning of his life. Okay, he's at the beginning of his life. Now he's already getting some good things. He's found him a wife, and we're a gospel show, so of course we can talk about the fact that the Bible says he who finds a good wife finds a good thing. So he's got hopefully a support system. Hopefully this thing is going well. So he's got that going on, but he does have a child that's coming in, and that's going to be a stressor. So it's going to be a stressor. So what can this guy do? So I think that one thing that I would advise a guy like this to do is really to kind of sit down and set goals. And I think this is something that really we don't really talk about in our community, and that is how to sit down, take a deep breath, sit down, write some goals out. It may start out by writing what's going on now. He may want to write down what's going on now. He's okay. Yes, I'm 27 years old. I finished high school. Hopefully finish high school. If you didn't, need to write that down too. I didn't finish high school. Maybe I went to a college. Get a kind of an assessment of where you are right now. Get that assessment going on there. Jail, no jail. If you did go to jail, is it felony or is it misdemeanor? You have a car, you have a house, those sort of things those sort of things. Get that assessment, because that's gonna inform what the next step is going to be. So what you want to get an assessment of what's going on in your life now, and then you want to find out what do you want your life to look like. And I think career goals are things that pretty much everybody's heard of. Whether it's school or some of these other programs, everybody talks about career goals. But I had a pastor of mine years ago, Pastor Troy, up here in Columbus, New Salem Missionary Baptist Church, who during one of his, he used to have these little sessions where he would talk to us about actually it's a variety of sessions, but I would never forget one of them where he talked about setting up life goals. And what life goals is a process of writing down what you want your life to look like. Because really too many of us, we get told to write down career goals. I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be this, I want to be that, I want to be, a CEO or whatever. But we don't really get taught to write down our life goals. And that is, do I want to be married? Do I want to have kids? Do I want to have, I want to live in the city? Do I want to live in the country? Do I want to do volunteer work? Do I want to be involved in the community? Do I want to be all to myself? These sort of life, do I want to be around my family? I mean, these sort of things. And, as yet again, as a 51-year-old guy looking back, I can see the importance of this. As a matter of fact, when I talk to some of the, some medical residents, stuff of this nature, I tell them to do this because your life goal can inform your career goal. So for this guy, he might want to write down life goals. So he's already married. He's got a kid on the way. So I mean, part of his goal. Do you want to stay married? I mean, honestly, I hope so. But I mean, like I said, that is a goal. But you know, what sort of family do you want? I mean, do you want a family where you come home every day and like so you go to you pick the kid up from school, stuff of nature? Gonna be kind of tough at this stage, but like I said, is that what you want? Are you the type of guy that's like, hey, maybe your wife, hey, you have a discussion, your wife has wants to be a stay-at-home wife and mother, and which means you got to make up, so much more income, and that can inform your career decisions. Um, or is it going to be that both of you are working and, like I said, she's got aspects of her life that, maybe bring in more income. And then, like I said, you may be a stay-at-home dad. But some of these life goals need to be written down, and they can inform your career goals. So I think that doing that is really important. So I think I would tell him to do those things. So like I say, get an assessment of where you are. Start writing down some career goals, including a life goal, a life plan. So you want to put that stuff down there as well. When it comes to career goal, like I said, you got to figure out what you're doing. So like I know one of the things I would tell people to look at, especially if with a person like this that has not been able to rise in any jobs, assuming that he's had multiple jobs. He said he was in multiple entry level positions. You know, what is it that has been the barrier? If you can talk to some of your old jobs and find out, that'd be great. If not, make sure that you got your own assessment. And you may know some of this stuff. Like I said, hey, I struggled with reading, back in the day. I struggled with math back in the day. And because this can inform what your next step would do. So if you struggle with reading literacy, you can take a class. Most communities have areas where you can take, literacy classes or reading classes, if nothing else at the library, to try to learn a little bit more about how to improve your reading. If it's math, like I said, maybe basic math was a struggle for you. Like I said, make sure you got those things together. So you want to get those sort of things together. Um, Another thing that can inform this guy, and actually this is my advice, is taking the ASVAB. And the ASVAB is a test that the military gives to you to determine what skill sets you have and what career choices might be good for you. And one of the best ways to do this, you can actually go talk to a military recruiter, and they're supposed to give you this ASVAB. So, a lot of people hear the military and they get a little scared or whatever, but I think that taking that ASVAB, in any form that you can kind of inform, let you know what sort of careers might be useful to you so you can expend your energy to things that you might be good at. So I think that that's one good thing. Now, in general, I did say, I actually made a comment that, yeah, I thought the guys should consider the military. Why the military? Okay. So of course, some people are like, oh, I want to go to the military. Well, I, I really don't think there's a lot of negatives out of the military, especially for young men. You know, if you don't have a career, now if you have a career path, you know what you're doing. Like I said, whether it's you know what you're going to do in college. If you got a trade, you want to do your trade. Or something of that nature, and you got a clear plan. I think that hey, more power to you. I think it's all good. But for those individuals that really just kind of are struggling, in life, there are a lot of things in the military that can get to you. Number one, three hots and a cot. So you got some place to live. They're gonna give you some place to live, and they're gonna give you some food, okay, and a check on top of that. So you're gonna get those three things in there. So so you got those things that can happen. So for this guy, I mean, so he gets, he gets housing, he gets a food stipend. This can kind of really help this guy out from a financial standpoint. The military also can give you training in terms of how to be in society. And this is one thing that I kind of noticed in younger people is that a lot of social training that we that we as say I'm a Gen X and above, that we assume that young people have. I don't think y'all have it, honestly. I'm gonna tell you right now. I just don't think y'all have it. How to, to make sure that you go to an interview with a suit. I mean, some of these cats don't even own suits. How to sit up straight, what sort of expectation to be there, how to talk, you know, and what we call code switching. But like I said, you're talking in an interview the same way you talking to your buddy on the street. That stuff doesn't fly. So a military experience will help you to yeah, if there's one thing it'll do, it will help you to learn how to communicate and how to uh, present yourself in society better. Now, I think yet again, going back to the older generation, Gen X and higher, and maybe some millennials as well, we had the experience of most of us were churched. So if you're church, you at least have a suit. You at least you're going out reading the Bible verses. To sit up and have some sort of level of reverence for what we call authority. But a lot of these young people, they just don't. I mean, a lot of those institutions are either not gone or they're not participating in. And so for a lot of cats, you know, there's not a lot of spaces for them to learn those sort of habits and really that how to blend in the culture a lot better. So I think the military is probably like for this guy, I would say if you can get in, that's the other thing. They're not taking people like they used to. So if you can get in, that I would tell that guy to really consider this because it would solve a lot of issues for the person. And now it would introduce the stressors because if you get deployed somewhere, you may get separated from the wife, things of nature. I mean, but those are just issues uh, that you may have to deal with. I mean, life is life, right? Life is life. So kind of going through that. So we talked about, take an assessment of where you are, trying to set some goals, like what you want to do, what you want to have. Do you want to have you want to staying married, what your household will look like, do you want to travel? Do you want to be close to your family? Those sort of things are important. And then kind of take an assessment of what sort of skills do you have? Are your literacy skills okay? Are your math skills okay? Can you socialize in a norm, what we call a normal manner? And then, like I said, in terms of possible options, looking into taking the ASVAB to get a formal assessment of your skills and what things you might be, what things might work well for you. So doing those sort of things, okay. So those sort of things. So now, okay, so even if you okay, so you took the ASVAB, military, I don't want to do that military. I think I'm making myself. Okay, so say you find out that you have some skills that you want. Well, now you got to go find or there's some careers that you're interested in. Now you need to go find out how to get the skills needed to enter into those careers and then how to level up. So when you're looking at that, so probably one of the bigger choices is going to be school, which is formal post-secondary education, which is like your colleges and stuff of nature, or kind of trades. And like I said, this may be more community colleges, or these little special trade where you training programs where you trade into things. So you got to look into those sort of things, and you got to look and see what sort of costs you're going to incur, whether or not they'll give you loans, whether or not there's scholarship programs out there. And for this, I would definitely tell you to look online. Strongly do two things. Number one, look online. If you don't know how to search stuff, I assume most people do at this point in time, but like I learned to stop assuming things. Search for resources. Anything that you're in, like even if you don't have a clue, just ask the machine, hey, look, I'm interested in welding. Are there any welding programs near me? Okay, I'm interested in driving a truck. Are there any truck driving programs near me? And then once you do that, learn to also ask follow-up questions, so you get a list of the trucking programs. Okay, now are there any trucking programs near me that have um, scholarships available or funding available or things of this nature? So ask those follow-up questions because that can also be kind of important as well. Find out how much the stuff costs. So you want to kind of make those choices. those decisions and see how things are going there, and follow up with it. Now, one thing that I think that young people don't think about, that is your public life. In terms of this kind of getting your life together, your public library. Most just about every community around here had, in the U.S. has a library. If not in a city, maybe it should be somewhere in the county where you have access to a library. The library has a librarian. The library is one of the few places where you know there is no expectation of money. You can go get a go in that library, get a free library card, and it literally gives you access to a world of knowledge. Most of them, you know, not only is it because it's not limited to the books and the resources they have there. With the internet, it's connected to the world. So a lot of libraries, even if it's a small library, will have access to maybe either databases, resources that are not local. So they may have, they may be part of some sort of consortium where, hey, career guidance courses or something of that nature, where you can come there and get access to it. Or your library card itself will allow you to check out electronic books, electronic courses, participate in electronic courses and things of this nature. So one of the things, that, young people, I advise young people to do, and that is to utilize whatever resources you have available. Because a lot of people just don't think about what resources they have available. They just, you kind of sit there and you linger out. And especially if you're around other people that are also kind of in the same space, but not asking the questions or not seeking the resources. So you need to seek the resources so that people, yeah, so that you can get the help that you need, so you can get the blessings that you need. And with Christians, yet again, what do? You have to ask, you have to pray for stuff, and then the blessings come down. Like they don't just come. Like I said, this is all active. Life is the same way. You have to ask for stuff, and sometimes you have to learn how to ask for stuff. And like I said, the library can help you learn how to ask the questions. The librarian that's there can listen to you what you're saying and say, "Oh, yeah, well, you can do this, you can do that," and don't be embarrassed by this stuff. This is life. And yet again, I'm going back to these Christian examples again. There was Jesus, and Jesus had his disciples, and his disciples had to ask Jesus how to pray, and Jesus taught them how to pray. So the same thing for you. Like I said, you're trying to get your career off the ground. You can't ask other people that don't have their career off the ground. So go use the resources you have. ASVAB, okay, ASVAB is going to connect you to the military. The military can connect you to their repertoire, their pool of career choices. Okay, oh, I want to do that. Okay, well, we got to go find something else. You can go to, yeah, you can go to college. I mean, but hey, that cost. There's a cost going on with that. Or you can go to your library. Okay, let me go to the library, and then you gotta go. When you go in there, you gotta ask that librarian, hey, look, 27 years old. Hey, look, I got a high school diploma. Don't really have much else. I tried this, tried various jobs. I have a great work ethic. Make sure you have a great work ethic. Please make sure you have a great work ethic, because none of this stuff works if you don't work. Okay, but you say, hey, I got a great work ethic, and I'm interested in building popcorn machines. I don't know, whatever the thing is you may have an interest in. And then the librarian can say, okay, well, this data, you can use this database right here. Oh, what's a database? Okay, well, database is a program that has whole lot of information in it, and you just go in there and ask it questions. Okay. Or they may say, hey, that's interesting because we're having a career fair, online career fair here next week. You can just sign up and can get in free with your library card. Or it can say, hey, that's interesting. I had Mr. So-and-so here. He has a popcorn machine manufacturing company and is looking for some help. Let me see if we can get you to that. So, utilizing your resources is extremely important there. So that's kind of how to go through that. Now I'm gonna go back to this thing called work ethic. Okay, so one of the things that when I see people that ain't you tell me you at an entry level here and an entry level there. Of course, one of the things I worry about is literacy, math skills. Whether or not they have a knowledge base. But even more important to that is what we call a work ethic. Okay, work ethic, integrity, these things are quintessential, especially like I said, they're important to everybody, but they're definitely important if you're trying to what we call level up or rise up. If you have a work ethic, somebody wants you to work for them. Nobody wants a lazy person working for them. So if you trying to go from the entry level to the next tier, it, you cannot come in late. Matter of fact, you can't come in on time. You need to be 5, 10 minutes, 5, 10, 15 minutes early. You just have to have that sort of ethic. You can't be, and you can't be dollying around waiting until lunchtime. I'm gonna just do the minute least I can because they only paying me this amount of money. Like, no, no, no. You gotta work. You gotta put in the work. I don't care if they pay you $1 an hour. You gotta put in the work. And I know people be like, well, I wouldn't work that hard. They only pay me $1. Look, you want to level up, you got to put in the work. You got to put in the work. Matter of fact, you're not even working. You're not working for money. In your mind, you can't even be working for money. You're working for you need to be working for experience. You need to be working for a letter of recommendation. You need to be working for, for yourself. You need whatever job that you have agreed to do. Okay. And remember, if they only paid $1, well, you agreed to work for $1. Okay. So if you agreed to work for $1 for a day, that's what you agreed to. Oh, well, there's nothing else available. Well, hey, look, you go streets, do whatever else you want to, but like this is what you agreed to. So once you agree to do that, now you go in there and you do the work, and they should be giving you your $1. Now, if you work it better than everybody else, then somebody's going to want to level you up. And even if they don't want to level you up, somebody is going to watch you working and say, "Well, that's a hardworking cat there. I got $2 a day." And then they're gonna let you go up to the next level. So this is one thing. These are just some of the things that I tell some of the young people when I get a chance to talk to them is to make sure that they got that work ethic, because honestly that generation just has a reputation for not working hard. And I think that there is a valid argument. I mean, you can make an argument for, well, I'm only going to work hard if you pay me enough. Well, that's never going to be the case. We're in a capitalist society. So if I'm the boss, I'm never going to pay you exactly what you're worth, because then I won't have my money. I mean, and fair. You can argue whether it's fair or not, but that is kind of what life is. Now, of course, you want to learn negotiation skills, things of nature, so that you can negotiate better, and you want to open up your opportunities so that you can always leave that place if they're not treating you failure or fairly, or paying you what you think you're worth. But part of that is going to include making sure that you are developing and gaining the skills that you need. Make sure you're getting the knowledge that you need, so that you can have the option of not staying places where people do not appreciate you. Okay. So yes, I'm telling you two things at the same time. Yeah, work hard, work as hard as you can, even if they're paying you not the same. But I'm also telling you to get the skills, the integrity, and their work ethic, so that when they're not treating you right, you can just walk out the door. And so you have to do both of those things the same thing, and that makes you a much more valuable employee. Now, I think that the ultimate goal, of course, is to become your own person, but like sometimes that can take a little while. And even that, if you you know once you become your own boss, like, hey, do you want the person that wants to knock off early? And the answer is no. So why would you do that to somebody else? So that's it. So that's kind of our talk for the day. I feel like I get off of this thing and get back to work. So, but like I said, just wanted to talk about ways. At least as one example of how to mitigate some of these pressures that young men find themselves into. Is kind of I guess I call this a virtual mentoring session, a way to approach, those of you that might be in situations where, like I said, it's not horrible. It's not like you're in jail, but you want to do better in life. And like I said, giving you kind of, at least my perspective on things I would tell a young person to do in order to get themselves into prepared to get to the next level, right? Because this is just a lot of preparation. This is just the preparation stage. This ain't even, you're not in the class, you're not taking the test, you're not doing anything else. Like I said, this is just getting you ready to get to another level. And so it takes a lot of introspection, like I said, that internal work, knowing acknowledging where you are, what you've done in life, deciding what you want to do in life, uh, take an assessment so you can see what you might be good at, looking at your options for leveling up and kind of making those choices based off your circumstances, based off your resources, based off your economics, and looking for the ROI, return on investment. So if something says that, hey, I can study for 6 months and get uh, 10,000 a month, a job making 10,000 a month, or I can study for a year and make a job making 30,000 a month. You got to figure out which one of those things you want to invest your time into. So this is just kind of my words for the day. This is Dr. Brown with Health Facts. Hopefully, someone finds this useful today. So, and have a great day. So, Dr. Brown signing off. Okay. All right. Well, great, great, great. Well, like I said, thank you for having me on the show. And like I said, I look forward to chat with you all next week. You too. Take care. Bye bye.